I'm so pleased to introduce a friend of our congregation and returning guest musician, Dr. John Daugherty. Daugherty, thank you. It'd be nice if I could get it right. John is assistant professor, baritone, and opera program director at the University of North Florida, where he joined the voice faculty in the fall of 2020. He enjoys an active performance and recording career, which includes opera, song recitals, and oratorio, performing repertoire drawn from a wide array of genres and styles. Dr. Daugherty previously served on the faculty of Furman University and acted as a vocal instructor for the University of Michigan freshman musical theater class. He holds his doctoral and master's degrees from the University of Michigan and his bachelor's from Texas Tech University. He was also a graduate of Santa Fe Opera's inaugural class of the Young Voices program. When he's not instructing or performing, he can be found reading the classics, strength training, or searching for the next cup of coffee, which he already found in our kitchen this morning. So, for his first selection this morning with the accompaniment of Dr. Gary Smart, John will perform Litany from Shadow of the Blues by John Musto and poetry by Langston Hughes. Welcome, John. Thank you, John. This morning, our opening words are by Tess Bomberger, and they're responsive. So I want all of you to respond to my words at each pause with these words. We travel this road together. Can you say those for me? We travel this road together. From the busyness of every day, we gather once a week to remember who we are, to dream of who we might become. We travel this road together. As companions on this journey, we share the milestones we meet along the way. Individual moments of joy and sorrow become shared moments of comfort and celebration. We travel this road together. We share this journey across differences of belief and opinion because we value diversity and because we care for one another. We travel this road together. Today, as we take the next steps, let us notice our fellow travelers, the burdens that they carry, the songs that inspire their hearts. We travel this road together. As we gather in beloved community, let us open the holy havens of our hearts. Let us share the sacred places of our souls, for we are pilgrims who share a common path. We travel this road together. Thank you very much. And good morning, all. My name is Linda Mowers. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm your worship leader. And I welcome you to this morning, this day, this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy and comfort and sometimes challenges. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we figured out all of life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, and how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. So our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. We have no shared creed, but we unite in our values as we covenant to affirm and promote our shared principles. Our living tradition calls us to draw from diverse wisdom sources, and these principles and these sources were created and articulated through a democratic process as our association of congregations evolved and continues to evolve. They can be found each week on the back of your order of service. We believe it's our obligation to express our faith through acts of compassion and justice. We're people who actively invite intellectual and spiritual growth through all ages and stages of life. Our kids are encouraged to ask questions, to think, and express themselves. We nurture truth-seeking, spirituality, and progressive moral values that will continue to shape and support us from childhood through all stages of our lives. If you're a visitor today, we welcome you as our guest and encourage you to stop by the welcome table where you will be greeted and invited to help yourselves to information about our church and our denomination. We hope you will fill out a guest card and a name tag so that we can all greet you by name. Our folks at the welcome table, as well as any of our members, are here to answer any of your questions and assist you in any way. We have regularly scheduled newcomer classes, and if you're interested in learning more about our church and Unitarian Universalism, that's a great place to start. If you're interested in membership, see our membership chair, Julie Smithers. Get to know us here, and we hope you will find that our beloved community is a home for you. I want to make sure that everyone here is aware that we're equipped with a hearing assistance system. If you wish to use one, please ask for it at the welcome table, or if you have your own device and tune into the channel in our system, it operates on 106.1. If you're unfamiliar with this kind of equipment, that we'll be happy to assist you before or after the service. So here at Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church, we practice theological hospitality and welcome all people of goodwill to the life of our congregation. Since we don't have a creed or a dogma, what holds us together as a community is covenant. That is the promise that we make to one another about who we will be as a faith community and how we'll be in relationship with one another as we practice the values expressed in our principles and hold reverence for our wisdom sources. At our annual meeting this past May, we voted on the words of our congregational covenant that we created together through a series of meetings for sharing and input. Our covenant is printed in your order of service right under the mission statement. So I want you all to find that, if you will. And I'm going to ask all of you to stand in body or spirit, rise in body or spirit, and we'll speak the words of this covenant together today, and then I'll have you remain standing for our call to worship. The words are also printed in your order of service for that. So please rise in body or spirit, find the congregational covenant, and we will say it together in unison. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. And now our call to worship. So now it's time for our chalice illumination, and I'd like to invite David Rulison to come forward and light our chalice. The words for our chalice lighting are by Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that envisions a world flourishing with equality for all people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is a symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. Thank you, David. So our opening hymn this morning is number 121 in your gray hymnal. I invite you to turn to We'll Build a Land, and we're going to sing all 4 verses. Gary? So it's the first Sunday of the month, which means it's our Pennies from Heaven Day. And this is a time when we take up a special collection for the Clothes Closet and Food Pantry of Clay County. This organization helps people in our community who are in crisis with basic needs, including food, clothing, and overdue rent or utilities, to enable them to stand on their own again. Please consider donating any loose change that you have, or even some paper bills are fine if you're willing and able. So I'd like to invite Jonas, Joseph, James, and Johnny, the 4 J's, to come forward, and they're each going to take an aisle and collect your spare change. It's so nice to hear that again. It's been a couple of years, and it's really great to hear it again on the first Sunday of the month. For our next selection of special music, we welcome John, along with Gary, back to the chancel to perform American Anthem, written by Gene Shear in the late 1990s. This beautiful and moving song was featured in Ken Burns' PBS film about World War II and was notably quoted by President Biden during his inaugural address. It was also sung by opera star Denise Graves when Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg lay in state at the United States Capitol. I'm so happy that John is bringing this song with his amazing vocal artistry to us today as we celebrate this Independence Day weekend with its aspirational message, honoring the past and looking forward with hope.
Freedom,
Thank you so much. That was gorgeous. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and its people. Our offering is an affirmation. It's a yes. So when we give, we say yes to something that we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission to create and nourish a loving community that seeks justice and respect for all. Our offertory ushers, Donna Zimmerman and Cindy Jorgensen, will come forward to accept your offering today. We are most grateful for anything you feel able and willing to give. If you're unable to donate, we invite you to participate in this ritual by passing the plate down and down your row and back to the next. At the conclusion of our offering, I'll invite all of you to rise in body or spirit and join me in hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. This morning, David Dean will share a reading, excerpts from what is considered one of the greatest abolitionist speeches by Frederick Douglass. He presented What to the Slave is the 4th of July to the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society in New York on July 5th, 1852. Frederick Douglass, the famous orator, abolitionist, and author who escaped from slavery in 1839, provides us an opportunity to understand a different perspective of America's founding. I invite you to find an opportunity to read the entire speech. You can find it in many online resources and in libraries.
Fully appreciating the hardship to be encountered, firmly believing in the right of their cause, honorably inviting the scrutiny of an onlooking world, reverently appealing to heaven to attest their sincerity, soundly comprehending the solemn responsibility they were about to assume, wisely measuring the terrible odds against them. Your fathers, the fathers of this republic, did most deliberately, under the inspiration of a glorious patriotism and with a sublime faith in the great principles of justice and freedom lay deep the cornerstone of the national superstructure which has risen and still rises in grandeur around you. Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? Such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciations of tyrants brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. But allow me to say, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope, while drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence and the great principles it contains and the genius of the American institutions. My spirit is also cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. God speed the year of Jubilee the wide world o'er, when from their galling chains set free, the oppressed shall vilely bend the knee, and wear the yoke of tyranny like brutes no more. That year will come, and freedom's reign to man his plundered fights again restore. Frederick Douglass.
And history marched on, and still marches on. Our speaker today, who is coming to us virtually, is the Reverend Dr. Matthew Johnson, the senior minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Rockford, Illinois. He served there since 2008 after a 5-year ministry in Colorado Springs, Colorado, He graduated from Meadville Lombard Theological School, which is a UU theological school in Chicago in 2003, and from Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington in 1999. Matthew completed his Doctor of Ministry from Iliff School of Theology in Denver in 2010. He's the author of Newborn Bards, a theology of preaching for Unitarian Universalists, served as co-chair of the UUA Presidential Search Committee, and has been an active leader in regional and national Unitarian Universalist organizations for decades. Reverend Johnson is a third-generation Unitarian Universalist who loves rivers, puzzles, running, craft beer, pilgrimage, his 2 kids, and a good book. He's focused on the good news of Unitarian Universalism. This is a religion, he says, which can save lives and the world. People seek a spiritual path that integrates their whole selves, that inspires awe, that celebrates beauty and grounds justice. We can offer a vision of the good life and the tools to make it real. Matthew is passionate about welcoming newcomers to the church, building strong communities, the preaching life, and working in accountable and effective ways for justice among all creation. We welcome Reverend Matthew Johnson to our virtual pulpit this morning.
Good morning and greetings to you. Buckman Bridge UU Church in Jacksonville, Florida. It was a delight to hear from Linda, your worship chair, and be invited to share the sermon with you this morning. And I wish you well and send you my blessings on this day. I was a pretty smart teenager. I took some AP classes and honors classes. I was on the debate team. I graduated third in my class. I was accepted into a small liberal private arts college in Washington State where I grew up, and I was the only kid from my working class high school to go there. While some wealthy suburban Portland or Seattle schools sent 10 or more students. The first month or so that I was there, learning so much and realizing how far behind I was, but also relishing being with other nerds, instead of fitting in, instead of sticking out, I found myself in a professor's office with a few other students, juniors and seniors, and they were talking about POMO. I was confused. Who is POMO? When is POMO? What is POMO? I summoned up the courage. What's POMO? The one person said, "You don't know?" I remember to this day the kindness of a student named Lone Lamb, who explained POMO was short for postmodernism. And she explained as best she could what it was and where it fit into the history of ideas, who the main authors were, Foucault and Derrida, etc. A little brilliant 5-minute explanation. I'm glad I asked. But I tell you that in that moment, before her kindness, I felt so stupid. I felt like a fraud to not know what it was. I wanted to start with that story today because I think a lot of folks feel this way about intellectual ideas, about theories and names which live in the academy, in philosophy, in legal studies or technical discourse, terms which make sense to the practitioners, but when those phrases get out into the real world, folks feel like, what's that? And why does everybody act like they know what it is? I don't get it. Are they saying I'm stupid? I feel this way when contractors talk to me about electrical equipment or types of pipes or something, as if I know what it is. I don't know what it is. Now, this feeling of, I don't know what this is, and I think I'm being talked down about it, this feeling of shame can be weaponized and exploited by those who wish to destroy the idea or a similar idea. It's a tactic as old as time. Take something nuanced and complicated and twist it, flatten it, give it a scary soundtrack, and try to destroy it. Pagans attacking Christians, Christians attacking pagans. Luddites destroying technology, capitalists against communists, communists against capitalists. It was a year or so later, after the "what is POMO?" question, that I learned the term critical race theory. Probably in Introduction to Comparative Politics, or maybe on the debate team, which is to say, it existed and was known in the academy 25 years ago when I was in college. It's very strange that now is the moment that folks are talking about the CRT boogeyman. This is not a new idea. Derek Bell coined the term, but the concept goes at least as far back as Frederick Douglass, 1852. What to a slave is the 4th of July. Now, that is a moment in history I would have liked to have seen. The power drips off the page, and you can only imagine him standing in the auditorium in Rochester, New York, noting all the celebrations of liberty and freedom that your fathers have thrown off oppression for the sake of their liberty, yet noting, proclaiming what was right there for all to know, that slavery made a mockery of the words liberty, freedom, and justice. Everyone knew it, but you weren't supposed to say it. It was obvious, but secret. This is critical race theory. This is the 1619 Project, which I recommend to you to go ahead and read if you haven't already. In the lead essay to the magazine version of the 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah Jones makes the same argument that Douglass made in 1852, that the American story is incomplete if we don't talk about the story of enslaved Africans, of their struggle and rebellions, of Douglass and Tubman and thousands of others who fled, who were fugitives, who broke the law for the sake of dignity and freedom and survival, who, in Reconstruction, briefly led a multiracial democracy until it was thrown down and thrown away to preserve white power. And then the struggle to make real the promises of this country, Randolph, Hammer, and King, and Simone, and all to this day, right up to this day, to Barber and West and Presley and Obama, all the rest, and thousands more unnamed, who, in King's metaphor, refused to believe that the treasury of democracy was bankrupt, and who have fought to make these promises of freedom, liberty, justice for all, real, true, for all. Critical race theory notes that when Harriet Tubman escaped slavery, she broke the law. It notes that the law that supposedly fair rules are not fair rules. The rules aren't race neutral. The enforcement of those rules isn't race neutral. And our conversation about those rules isn't race neutral either. I served on a grand jury 2 years ago here where I live in Northern Illinois. And I can tell you from that experience that there is no real debate about critical race theory in the legal realm. It's accurate. The only debate is about whether to admit it or not, to name what is clearly a fact. The 1619 Project similarly isn't really a big debate. Oh, historians quibble about the interpretation of particular details, but the larger point that America, politically, culturally, aesthetically, religiously, is what it is because of the presence, oppression, struggle for liberation, and faithfulness of Black Americans, as well as indigenous people, other people of color, is a simple fact. Just fact. To tell a different story of our country, of our journey, is a willful lie. It's just not true. To tell a story in which noble heroes established a perfect country of freedom for all right from the get-go, that's just not true. Those who would ban the teaching of this history, to say you cannot mention these subjects, would teach lies to our children, our college students, and to the general public. Now, y'all are in Florida, so you know, and I suspect you are probably involved in the fight against doing the same thing to gay, lesbian, transgender, and queer folks, as if passing a law that says you can't say gay will make gay folks disappear. It might make them move, but not disappear. You know. Now look, it's hard to lay down a myth. You think your parents are good, but after they die, you hear stories that make you wonder. You believe in the church, but then the priest is caught embezzling funds. Your favorite baseball team trades away your favorite player, and you wonder why you should care. You loved a book, but then you found out part of it was plagiarized. These things are hard. We become attached to stories about who we are and what we are for. But as Unitarian Universalists, we are committed to the search for truth. We are heretics who choose. That's what that means. The word heretic means those who choose to find out what our conscience tells us is true, what research and science and truth tell us is true. Our Unitarian Universalist forebears helped to found this republic, this nation. Some of them were in those long line of black people who helped make this country face its failures and live up to its promises. People like Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Others were proud abolitionists who knew that slavery and racism was an affront to human dignity and the American ideal. People like John Quincy Adams, Theodore Parker, and the greatest white abolitionist of them all, William Lloyd Garrison, who hung out with us sometimes. But other early Unitarians valued compromise over action, civility over struggle, and in some cases held captive enslaved Africans themselves, including, of course, Thomas Jefferson. We used to be so proud to count Jefferson as one of us, but now we don't want to talk about him at all. Strike his name from the history book of Unitarianism. And it seems to me right to say remove the name from the name of one of our churches, groups of people, but not to remove the name from history altogether. To remember, but not to honor. And we can do those things. Because to know who we are as Unitarian Universalists, we must talk about this whole history. Those who believed in freedom and acted, and those who wrote about it and did too little. The same goes for the American story. The whole story. The failures and the triumphs. The ideal is worth celebrating. Freedom, liberty, and justice for all. That's a good idea. I like that idea. And that's the argument of the 1619 Project and of critical race theory, that the idea of freedom and fairness is worth fighting for. It is not yet realized. Now, one author that I follow is a critic of the 1619 Project from the left. He thinks it's far too patriotic about America, too naive about the promise of America, not sure it's worth working to fulfill the promise of America. So just to put things in perspective, there are critics on the left as well as critics on the right. And I respect that point of view, his point of view. And it's important for me to say that nationalism is a form of idolatry. It's important for me to affirm, in the words of that well-known hymn, that other lands have sunlight too and clover, and that other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and real as mine. And yet, I want to also affirm, alongside Frederick Douglass and Nicole Hannah-Jones and all those who fight for this place and these promises, that America is worth working for. It's worth the effort to make a more perfect union. The ideas are good. Freedom is good, justice is good, hope and possibility is good. The promise is a good one. The breaking of that promise is heartbreaking. But if we cannot tell the truth, then we will not build a land worthy of our dreams. If we do not tell the truth, then we will not move forward. America is worthy of our dreams, our effort, our striving, worthy of truth-telling, of correction, of effort. It's worth saying that all people are holy and should be equal under the law, and we must note that they are not. They are not equal before the law, but they should be. And we roll up our sleeves and we get to work. It's worth saying that every child should have robust opportunities to thrive and live in clean and safe houses with healthy neighborhoods and good schools. And I believe that promise should be kept. It isn't. And mostly it isn't on account of race. And if we want to make that promise real, we have to tell the truth. And then we have to get to work. It's worth saying that everyone should have the right to vote, the right to have a say about their government, that a government should be, in the words that Lincoln borrowed from Unitarian abolitionist Theodore Parker, of the people, for the people, and by the people. It should be. It isn't. It should be. Voting suppression schemes, say that 5 times faster, on the march across this country. But if people like Florida's own Desmond Meade aren't giving up, then how dare I? If they believe that American democracy is worth fighting for, if he thinks that and you think that, well, then I better get to work. You all there in Florida are on the front lines of this work, and I bless you for it. You know how important it is. I believe that farm workers and the delivery drivers and the office clerks of America deserve humane conditions, a decent wage, respect, and we need to tell the truth that they don't always have it. So let's not live in denial, but then let's get to work. Si se puede, yes we can, is a statement of hope that it is possible. It's not a statement of accomplishment. It's not yes we did, it's yes we can. We're not there yet. It's the American journey, not the American destination. It's worth fighting for, though. Douglass ends here, too, back in 1852, that slavery could not remain. He saw the forces of freedom on the rise and knew that the moral contradiction could not continue long. And that, I suppose, is the key point about telling the truth. Why conservatives want to ban the teaching of our true history. Why those who screamed loudly about cancel culture now wish to cancel the 1619 Project and critical race theory and all the rest. Because if we tell the truth about race and oppression and classism, sexuality, about inequality and injustice, if we tell the truth, then the moral contradiction between the facts and the ideal will be too much to bear. When you know the truth, and you know we're not living up to our promises, not yet, then you must do one of 3 things. Ignore the truth, abandon the promises, or get to work. Those are your choices. Ignore the truth, abandon the promises, get to work. So let's get to work. There are promises to keep, hopes to make true, injustice to right, and dreams to fulfill. Now is not the time for lies or faint hearts. No. Now, in this moment of turning and reckoning, of truth-telling and power, now is the time to do what needs to be done, to join together, to make America what it can be, what it should be, what it must be. May it be so. Blessings on your day and your journey and your congregation. May you go forth in love and courage. Amen.
like to invite David to extinguish the flame of our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. The words of our benediction are appropriately by the Unitarian abolitionist Theodore Parker. He says, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living." Amen, and blessed be. Thank you.